don't leave your viewfinders open because you're lazy, because they will get gunk on them and then you will have to do that. Hey guys, happy April. It is time for a WIP update, but first, this is bothering me because I'm not in the middle. So I had a chance to work on all of my WIPs this last month, except for Dorianne. I don't know well, I do know what's happening with Dorianne. I don't think I'm gonna finish her. I haven't 100% made the decision in my head, but I think I'm gearing up to make that decision. So if you were wondering about Dorianne, I have packed her away and I reincorporated all of the bobbins back into my collection. So I think that might be the end of that, but I'm not gonna like get rid of it or throw it out or something. So maybe I'll get I don't know, a stroke of inspiration and decide that I want to finish that or work on it, but right now I don't. So I'm not including her as a WIP. So when I say I've worked on all my WIPs, not that one, never that one. So I have a little tiny finish to show you. I finished the first mini mandala from Chatelaine. This is my first Chatelaine finish. And I think it came out so beautifully. I love the colors, I love the beadwork, and I love the metallic. I am so addicted. This was a lot of fun, and it went fairly fast. I mentioned this a little bit on my Instagram, but I decided to hang the gold beads. You can see them in the very center there and all throughout. I decided to put them straight up and down because they're smaller. I tried to put all of my beads straight up and down as opposed to diagonally because I thought I liked that look more. This actually doesn't bother me at all that they're hanging diagonally. The trouble I ran into was I was doing these like this row of vertical beads and they took up too much space because they're longer lengthways than they are wide. So when you hang them vertically so that they're straight up and down, they kind of bump each other out of order. So I ended up not being able to fit the last bead into this row. And I was like, oh well, I'll just make them all the same. And then I got to the other side and I just didn't like how it looked. So I took it all out and I decided to hang the little beads, the gold ones, the ones that I could hang vertically, I did that. And then the blue ones you can see are diagonal. But I actually think they look really nice. Particularly around the corners here. They're all kind of angled a different way. I think that's really pretty actually. So I'm happy I did that and I didn't mess with the bead arrangement. I'm not sure. I was thinking about my Mirabilia when I was working on her the other day. My last Mirabilia, I hung all the beads vertically. That was Mermaid of Atlantis. I finished it last summer and it was my first Mirabilia. And I'm realizing now, in hindsight, that I may have only been able to do that because I stitched that mermaid on 25 count fabric. So the fabric was actually quite big, which meant that the spaces left for the beads were pretty big. I'm stitching red on 32 count, I think. So I'm not sure if I'll actually be able to hang them vertically like I did the previous one, just because I might have the same spacing issue that I ran into with this one where all the beads are packed really close together. But like I said, I like the diagonal beads in here, so it might not be a problem for red. It's just something I hadn't really thought about. I just assumed I would do them all the same way, and then I realized, oh, I'm working on a smaller fabric, so the holes are going to be smaller. Anyways, so this is my first chatelaine. It was the perfect starter chatelaine to do. The pattern was very easy to read, manageable, just one page, and I really enjoyed it. And as a funny story to share, I ran out of these blue beads, these beautiful blue beads that are all over here. I was one short of finishing. And through more, I think, my fault than the fault of European Cross Stitch Company, which is where I ordered the kit from. I think that they measure their beads out by weight, which would make sense because who wants to hand count out a whole bunch of beads? But the problem was that I threw away a couple of the blue beads because they were really tiny. You know how sometimes you just get like slivers, little slivers of beads? I threw out a few that were like that, and I threw out 2 that were like fused together. I couldn't separate them. And then I dropped one on the floor, and that was the one that I needed. Like, I was 1 short, and I knew there was one in the room somewhere on the floor, and I could not find it. To this day, I can't find it. It still might be up there. I assume that my cat ate it. Because, once I found out I was 1 bead short, I was like, no way. It is in this room. And I just like scoured like hands and knees, moving stuff. Couldn't find it. So a big thank you to Cindy at European Cross Stitch Company for sending me another little packet of beads. I contacted her and said, I'm 1 bead short, but I have no problem buying another package of beads if you don't typically replace them, just because it's only 1. It's not like, I mean, and it was more my error than anything else because I was just throwing them out and, you know, dropping them all over the place. But she very kindly sent me a lot of beads. She knew I only needed 1, and she sent me like a dozen or 2 dozen. So thank you, Cindy. That was excellent of you. Hilariously, it came in a little envelope like this. And it was just flat, like, right? There was just a tiny bag in there. And so my dad saw the envelope and he was like, did someone send you an empty envelope? And I was like, I don't think so. Oh, it's my beads. My like 10 beads that she had to post all the way across the country for me. So thank you again, Cindy. That was wonderful customer service. And I'm so happy that I got to finish the mini mandala. So for a while, this was just like sitting with, it was this bead that I was missing, this one on the end here. I had come up through that hole, still like beading needle threaded with the invisible thread, and just like left the needle on the front, like pointing to the spot where the bead had to go. So for a couple weeks, this was like 99.999% done. And I actually just stitched the bead on right before I turned on to film this video. So just like, it's complete now. For 5 minutes, it's been complete. So yeah, and I didn't really show much detail on this. I'm really excited to start the 2nd and 3rd mini mandalas. I think I can probably finish 1 a month, knock on wood. Now that I say that, that'll be impossible. And then I'll do a more in-depth video on the little patterns and what they look like close up. But here's just a little tiny bit, again, of the detail. So there's this, this looks like a gate to me, but I guess it's a plant, a little fountain, and yeah, so this is beautiful. And if you haven't done a chatelaine, I encourage you to try something like this, which seems a lot more manageable and attainable than the large chatelaine. Although I don't have the mental block I had for the large chatelaines anymore, since stitching this one and since doing the twisted band sampler and trying all those specialty stitches. This just had 1 specialty stitch in it. So totally doable. Okay, enough about that. I've talked about that for like 10 minutes. Secondly, I guess I will show my Blackwork. I did a tiny amount of work on my Blackwork this month. I stitched on it for 1 day at Matthew's house. Hi, Matthew. And here is what I got done. So when you last saw this months ago, I haven't stitched on it since September, I don't think. This is how complete it is. Very close to the end. There's the bottom of the fabric there. I had finished, I still haven't done anything with this section, and now that more people are stitching it, I'm curious to see, once they get to that section, what they do. It may just be a total fluke with me and my stitching ability, but as I mentioned, and it's been a while since I talked about it, so maybe I'll talk about it again quickly. There's a very beautiful, intricate design planned out for this section that, because of the count of fabric I'm using and the fact that it's Aida as opposed to even weave, it was a lot of like splitting the fabric, and I just couldn't make it look good. I tried to put it in and take it out and put it in and take it out, and I didn't like it. It looked too blocky. I'm also using, against the recommendation of the pattern, I'm using the pearl cotton for the entire thing, it says on the pattern that you're supposed to use the pearl cotton to do the borders, the like structure, and then fill in the patterns with I think a single strand of DMC. So my patterns are significantly, they look more condensed because the thread I'm using is actually thicker than the thread I'm supposed to be using. So you lose a little bit of detail anyway when stuff is that close together. And if I were to do this pattern again, I would probably do the single strand of DMC, just for ease of ability to see the patterns, just for clarity's sake. This is really gorgeous though. I haven't looked at this in a long time. So I still am undecided what to do here. I think I'll probably just put in a little bit of a more complicated design around the bottom and some beads because there hasn't been any beads in this Blackwork for a while. But anyways, so I left off here. I had finished this section. This last month I stitched these 3 pieces. So this tiny little pattern, I forget what they're called now. I haven't talked about these for a long time. Motif. This little motif. I finished this one, which is really beautiful actually. I'll try and get it as close as I can here. This one. And then this one is done, except I have to put in a little bit more of the metallic. That's where I stopped. So I did a tiny amount of work on this. I can easily see myself getting re-obsessed with this month. It's just, I think it's so relaxing to stitch and fun, and it's a pattern that I don't have to cross off because it doesn't have any symbols in it. They're just lines, and I haven't really found a way to mark that I don't really need to show that I've done it on the pattern. I can just work from the pattern until it's done, which is a nice change of pace. It's a little less material for me, especially if I'm stitching it not at my own house. I don't have to bring like a pen, and I don't have to have a surface to like cross stuff off. So that's nice. But the main reason I picked this up again is I am planning on finishing this piece for my mom for Mother's Day. She has said several times since I started this piece last year that this is her favorite of the pieces that I've stitched. So, and it's like neutral, appropriately neutral, and it would look nice in our house. So I'm gonna try and finish it up for Mother's Day, and then we can frame it up and it can be for her. So I'm hoping to work on that a little bit more this month. I know I will. The last thing I have to show is red. Quick side note, please, I'm gonna say please ignore it, but I'm also gonna point it out. My fabric is so dirty. Can you see this? Like, I think it's pencil lead, and I hope it's gonna come out. I haven't tried to take it out yet, like sponge it off, but it's kind of freaking me out. Of course, this is like the whitest fabric I've ever stitched on, and it's filthy. So this is the headless red, the headless lady horseman as she looks right now. I forget where I was last time I showed this, which was January. I didn't stitch on this in February, I don't think. But my goal for this month was to finish her cloak, and I almost did it. I'm so close. I just have this little bit of like red to finish up here under this stripe pattern. So I just have her cloak and then her hood, and then all that's left is her face and skin and beads and back stitching. I really enjoy stitching on this. I still haven't figured out why I like stitching on this so much and I don't enjoy stitching on something like Dorian as much. I think it's just so big that it's just overwhelming. And this has like the promise of beads and things to come. So these are my little negative bead space, as I said on my Instagram. And I'm really enjoying this like pop of color at the bottom. Something that continues to surprise and delight me about Mirabilias are their ability to like incorporate colors that I would never put together. Like this, the dress and then the pink flowers with the red cloak somehow not clashing, and then the red cloak with this really warm like brown trim And then at the bottom, there's this pop of like emerald and turquoise. And it's something I would never, ever put together, but it's so pretty. And yeah, I think just this cloak even would be such a beautiful piece of clothing. And just the detail again, like the dress, how these darker bits, I think they kind of look like skeletal in nature. Like it looks kind of like ribs, and I think that's cool. I don't mean that in a gross way. I think that's something that's really cool about this. It's very structured, and this dress, like this, I don't know, what would that be? Like a bustle, is very structured and looks very regal and cool. Again, I'm not sure how I'm gonna react. I find this pattern to be like a particularly smug looking pattern. Most Mirabilias to me either look smug or like wistful, and I'd rather have wistful. Red looks pretty smug, I think. So that might annoy me when I'm stitching, like, oh God, get that look off your face. So this is red. I'm probably gonna stitch on her more today. I really wanna finish up this little bit, over here, of red in the cloak, and then I might even go on and do her hood, just so then I'll know that I'm done with all of the red in these colors, and I can switch out in my floss box and change to the skin colors. So that seems like a natural stopping point for that one. I was also thinking, there's no metallic in this pattern. There's the silks in the dress and the beads and the charms, but there's no metallic, and I really like metallic. So I was thinking, I've been thinking, and you tell me if you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. There's, I wish I brought down the picture of what red looks like, but I didn't. So this part in her cloak here, the empty spaces are filled with black beads, so it looks like leaves. And then there's kind of like a viney black back stitching effect. And I was thinking about doing that, just that, in like a black metallic. I think that would look really nice. But I haven't decided. I don't even know if I have a black metallic. I'll have to check. So I might do that. I don't think I'd mess with any of the other back stitching because I think there's kind of a lot going on here anyways, but I really like the idea of that being glimmery. And that will be the first time I've really like done my own thing, aside from like the Twisted Band sampler where I chose the colors, but this would be the first time I really like added onto a pattern on my own. So I might do that. And so those are my WIPs right now, just those 3. This month, I mentioned the goals that I have set for red. I want to work as much as I can on the Blackwork. I don't get bored very easily with the Blackwork because you're getting a new section so often and you're changing so often. And I'd love to finish the second mini mandala from Chatelaine. I'm just gonna start it. That's gonna be the goal. Hopefully I can finish it though. So I also have some patterns that I purchased from Stitching Bits and Bobs. I was gonna make a separate video, but I don't really want to edit 2 videos, and you probably don't want to wait for another video because I would put it up in like a few days. So let's just do that now. Let's make it one big video. So I'm gonna grab the stuff that I purchased and I will be right back. So I ordered from Stitching Bits and Bobs, as I mentioned. I really like that website. The one downside to me is that the search function isn't as sophisticated as, not the search function. Let me just talk through my point and then maybe maybe I'll actually identify it correctly. So you know how on 123 Stitch you can search by like themes if you want to search for like pirate ships or carnivals or whatever. They don't have that on Stitching Bits and Bobs. You can only search by designer. It's just alphabetized. And I don't know a lot about designers. I don't necessarily know. And you know how sometimes you can find a designer that you really like and the name is misleading or you would never have. So it's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack to me. It's like, yeah, here's 200 awesome designers, but I don't know, unless I'm going to look through each and every one, I don't know what I'm going to like. So that's a tiny downside. I always find that I have to spend more time on this website just to find things that I like. There are lots of things that I like, but it just takes more time. Sometimes what I've done is, I find that sometimes it's cheaper than 123 Stitch. It takes a bit longer in, after placing the order to like be packed and shipped, but sometimes I'll go to my 123 Stitch wish list and then like cross-examine the Stitching Bits and Bobs websites to find the same pattern. So, there's a trick. So anyways, I really like how their stuff always comes packaged in like a file folder to keep it from bending, and I think that's great. So I did get a free pattern. I've always got a free pattern from Stitching Bits and Bobs. This is the Quaker Basket of Flowers. I will probably never stitch it, but it seems very nice and I appreciate the gesture. So when I was on the website, they had just been to the Nashville Market. I don't know what that is. There was a link, Nashville Market 2015, and it was a bunch of limited edition patterns that they had obviously gone to this convention or wholesaler show or something and had like bought up as much as they could, so it was limited quantities. I don't remember exactly which ones were limited edition that I purchased and if you would still be able to get them, but you can always search on the website if you're interested. So there was a whole bunch of new stuff to look through and also a whole bunch of clearance that they put up that I browsed through that took a long time that I actually really enjoyed. So also Stitching Bits and Bobs is the website that I can find petite treasure braid on. I know that that's sometimes a little tricky to get a hold of, and I just realized, like a dope, that it's cheaper than Krennic. I assumed, because Krennic was so much more readily available online, not where I live, that it was a better value, but it's totally not. You get way more on a card of petite treasure braid for cheaper. So if you're like me and you just never looked at that, there's a fun fact. You get way less on a spool of Krennic for more money. So, anyways, these are tangents. I'm so chatty today, you guys. It's been a while. I missed you. How are you guys? So the first pattern I got is from Prairie Moon, and it is called To Follow You, I Am Not Content. And I'm going to take it out of the bag because there may be a glare. This pattern is so unlike what I normally go for. I mean, I really like it, and I really like what's written on it, and I think it's cute. So it's like a gothic scene. There's two little like gargoyles up here, or demons, and then this little like lurking evil man, and then some tombstones and some crosses and a picket fence. Maybe you guys will know more what this is, but so this is what it says. To follow you, I am not content. How do I know which way you went? I think that's so funny, like it's so obvious. How do I know which way you went? So there's a better look at To Follow You, I Am Not Content from Prairie Moon. It's charted for Weeks Dye Works. I think it would be pretty easy to just stitch this in whatever you happen to have. There's only 2, 4, 6, 8 colors in it. So I think I will just probably stitch this with whatever. And I just think it's really fun, and I like the gothic-ness of it. I don't know if this is this primitive? I never am totally aware of what primitive as a unit is, like if someone could explain it or describe it to me. This seems like some offshoot of that style, but I enjoy that it's gothic. So the next pattern I got is from Rosewood Manor, another company I've never purchased from, and it's called Crowns of the Kingdom. And it is just a collection of historical crowns. And I think it is so pretty. I would really love if there were a little like infographic of which, if these are like specific historical crowns. Maybe if you're like a big royals buff, you may know that. Yeah, but like this one, very traditional to me. This one in the center, I don't know the significance of that one, but it's in the center and it's very delicate, so it seems like it's important. Like I said, I'm really into like royals in general, not just the British royals either, just like the pomp and all of it all. But I know very little about historical crowns, so I wish someone would like identify all of these and then I could read it. And I'll just read you, there's a statement on the back from Karen Kluba, who is the artist for this pattern. So she says, after looking at several antique samplers and noticing the crowns stitched in them, I decided to collect the motifs for them and create a sampler. So this is all the crowns. And something that I did not realize, or I had no way of knowing when I ordered it, this is stitched or it's charted entirely in metallic. So 1, 2, 3, there's 4 colors and they're all metallic. So this is 100% metallic. It's gonna be so metallic. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. It would be nice though, wouldn't it? So there's like a copper, a gold, and a silver, and then a black. I might do the black just as black and then have all the kind of metal colors be metallic. I don't know. There's something appealing to me about stitching something entirely in metallics. And this would be appropriate if you're going to do anything, a whole bunch of fancy crowns. So the next pattern I got, I am so excited about this. I am so delighted. Second time I've used that word in this video, word of the day. I am so delighted by this pattern. This is what made me place my order. I had never seen anything like it. And it seems like, you know, you see patterns of those samplers from like, you know, so-and-so, aged whatever, stitched in 17 whatever, and it's a Bible verse or it's something. I think those are very cool, but I never found one that I liked enough that was distinctive enough for me to want to stitch. But this is by Faithworks. I think this is was a Nashville Market one, so I'm not sure if it was limited edition or if they only had a certain number of patterns, but I think everyone should buy this and frame it on their wall like I'm going to, because I think it is lovely. So this is called Schoolgirl Sampler, and I'm just gonna, again, for the glare, take it out of this. Okay, so I'll show you the close-up first. It's a letter. It looks like a letter that the schoolgirl would have sent home to her parents. So I'll just read it to you. Dear Mama and Papa, I hope you are well. How is Tabby? I miss her. My schoolwork progresses. Which is my favorite line. My schoolwork progresses. I begin my day writing ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. I have drawn my horn book here. So then there's a little, this is actually a little like button, like a little wooden piece that does not come in this kit, which I didn't realize, but I did just order it from where it does come from for like $4 because I think it's adorable. So you actually I'll actually have a little like black wooden horn book, and then I will have stitched this ABC and 1, 2, 3 separately and put it on the horn book and then attach the horn book to the fabric, so it's 3-dimensional. Did you guys know that horn books are a thing? I couldn't read this originally on the website. I was like, what? I thought it said course book. And I was like, well, I get what they're trying to say. So whatever word it is, it's probably just the computer image that I can't read it. But it was because I didn't know what word it was. So horn books are like this thing. Look it up. I did. Look up horn book. And you tell me why you would need something like that. I don't understand the use of that. Convenience? I mean, it's like a big paddle that you carry around that has your alphabet on it. Anyways, okay, so I've drawn my horn book here, and then there's a little horn book. And then it says, needlework is my favorite lesson. This scrap of linen shows stitches I have learned. And then on a separate piece of fabric, you do these little stitches and you attach it to the fabric. And then it says, please write soon and send more needles. Your daughter, Cora. October 10th, 1797. Miss Adams School. Send more needles. Cora. You were speaking to all of us. So how adorable is this, you guys? There's just another look at it. It is a schoolgirl's letter about how much she loves needlework, and it is so tiny. And this is something I would have on my wall for sure. I think it's adorable. So once again, that's from Faithworks, and it's called Schoolgirl Sampler, and I suggest that everyone go and buy it from Stitching Bits and Bobs right now if you can. Lastly, I got some patterns from the Drawn Thread, and I got one pattern from Patricia Ann Designs that was very, very deeply discounted. So the Drawn Thread first. I purchased some patterns from the Drawn Thread last year, and I have not stitched any of them, but I bought some more because, and I think I said this last year, the Drawn Thread is becoming one of those companies that I could stitch any pattern from. I love their gardens, and I just think they're beautiful. So I got the Alpine Garden, and here's a close-up of that. So that's the Alpine Garden. Put them back in the things later. I also got the Wildflower Garden. Ooh, this one's really glary. So that's the Wildflower Garden. These all have a very similar style where they tell you the name of a certain plant or flower, and then underneath they say what it's supposed to symbolize. And then the Prairie Garden, this one is close to home because I live on the prairies. So for example, this one says Daisy, Innocence, Gardenia, Variety, Pasture Thistle, Austerity, Prairie Clover, Friendship. So this is the Prairie Garden. And these don't seem, I really like the detail in these and the different colors. I like that they're all different little sections to stitch. And I like this idea of the like vertical long sampler. And they're all very, very similar sizes. So I like the idea of just like stitching them all in the same fabric, not necessarily like framing them all, but just the fact that they'll all be the same size and they're all very thematically similar. The last one I got is a little bit different. Also, for as much as I like the patterns, I always find Drawn Thread patterns to be really inexpensive to me. I think all their patterns, or almost all their patterns, are like $10 for something like what I just showed, like these gardens, which seems very affordable to me. I don't know, that might be a trick, a mental trick, because I just really like these. But the last one I got is a little bit different. This is Moonlight Garden. So it's all in these softer blues, and it's just a little bit of a different shape. So that's Moonlight Garden. And then the last leaflet I got is very much a leaflet. It's just one page. And it's from Patricia Ann Designs, and it's called Antique Roses. It's another sampler. This was, I think, $3 or $4. It was really deeply discounted. And the reason I got it was because there is some drawn thread work, some cut work in this that I think is really pretty. And I'm not sure, I haven't ventured into that yet, but this is something that I would like to stitch. And the fact that it has drawn thread work and it appeals to me, I'm drawn to it, is what I was gonna say. I don't know, for like $4, I just jumped on it. So I don't know how good the instructions are in here. I might need a more intensive tutorial, but this is Antique Roses. Sorry, my lamp is in a weird place today, so it's kind of inhibiting my ability to give some close-ups. So it's not all drawn thread work. There are a few bands that have drawn thread work, and the rest is just this lovely rose motif. So that is Antique Roses. And that is all that I got from Stitching Bits and Bobs. I will link that website down below if you are interested and want to browse around on there. If not, only to just look at that adorable schoolgirl sampler. I'm so obsessed with that. I just think it's so timeless. Please send more needles. Yeah, so none of these patterns are necessarily right on the top of my list to stitch right at the moment. I would say 3 seems like a manageable number of WIPs for me. I don't really have the desire to start anything right now, although there are a lot of patterns I would love to stitch in my collection. I think I might have a Mirabilia going all the time. I have a lot of Mirabilias kitted up that I think I've shown in the past. So that appeals to me. That's like the beading, pretty lady aspect. I want to finish the mini mandalas from Chatelaine and the Blackwork, and then I think the next thing I'll start once I finish something are one of those Dinky Dyes samplers. Do you remember when I showed you guys that a literal year ago? I'm still so obsessed with them and I like them so much. So that's probably the next thing I will jump on once one of those 3 WIPs is done. And like I said, 3 seems like a good number for me right now. I don't really have the desire to like start something right this moment, despite all of these wonderful things that I have. These 3 I think are varied enough that I enjoy, like I'm excited to work on all of them, and they're different enough that I can rotate through them without feeling really bored. So that is my WIP update and surprise super secret haul tacked on to the end of it. Oh my god, I have talked for forever. I'm sorry this is so long, but thank you for making it all the way to the end if you did, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.